featured speaker this evening is Wolf Blitzer, a name, voice, and face you all recognize. I first met Wolf in Augsburg, Germany, when we were just kids. Since then, we have both come a long way. His family's history, we're up there. His family's history, which he spoke about publicly last year on a special CNN broadcast, makes his participation tonight especially meaningful and deeply appreciated. Wolf's rise to fame began in Buffalo, New York, where the family settled when they came to the United States. His rise through the ranks of journalistic success began in Tel Aviv, where he reported for the Reuters news agency. Wolf's career at CNN began in 1990 as the network's military affairs correspondent at the Pentagon. It is our pleasure to have Wolf appear tonight. He is at the apex of his career, world-renowned and accomplished in all aspects of broadcasting, reporting, and writing. Also, he has to leave early tonight, so he's speaking early because he has a special at 10 o'clock tonight on CNN. Please join me in welcoming a dear friend and distinguished journalist, Wolf Blitzer.
Thank you so much, Lenny, for that introduction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for inviting me here this evening. I do have a special that I'll be anchoring later tonight on what's going on in Paris at a 2-hour special from 10 to 12. So if you're home and if you're still awake, this programming note, please join us on CNN. It's a great honor for me to be here to celebrate with you, the Friends of Yad Vashem, a very, very special evening. I really appreciate everything you have done, and I especially want to thank my old friend Lenny Wolf for personally asking me to join all of you this evening. Lenny and his brothers Ziggy and Mark are, of course, deeply committed to Yad Vashem. Indeed, the entire Wolf family has done amazing work for Yad Vashem and other outstanding and critically important causes. And ladies and gentlemen, they deserve, the entire Wolf family, a huge round of applause. Now you know that the Wolf family and the Blitzer family have a very long history. Our families do indeed go way back, and I will share more of that history, more of that story with you a little bit later. And I'm really happy my sister Helena Schwartz and her husband Steve Schwartz are with us this evening, and I'm thrilled that my beautiful daughter Alana and her husband David Snyder, they're here as well. As we say, we represent the second and third generation, and we are all, of course, deeply aware of that, a special responsibility that all of us have. Let me warmly, very warmly, welcome all the Holocaust survivors who are joining us this evening. I've met several of you this evening, in the course of this evening, and even though we've never met, I feel as if I know all of you, because I almost feel as if I grew up with you, the parents, the friends of my parents growing up in Buffalo, New York, the Holocaust survivors. We have that unique bond, and even though we never met, I feel as if I know all of you very personally. You are all eyewitnesses to horror. All of us are grateful to you for sharing your stories with us, as painful as they are. We must never forget how cruel human beings can be to other human beings. And the Holocaust survivors who are still with us, they are all indeed very special people. And once again, I'd like to warmly welcome them. Let's give them another round of applause. As you know, my parents, like Lenny's parents, like so many other parents, are Holocaust survivors. My father, David Blitzer, may he rest in peace, passed away in 2002 at the age of 82. My mother, Tsesha Blitzer, she's still with us. She's 93 years old. I was just with her in Florida the other day. I know she would have, yeah, you can give her a round of applause. I know she would have loved to have been with us tonight. She would have been kvelling with nachas. Does this crowd understand that, Lenny? Okay. but unfortunately she couldn't be with us tonight, but she sends her love. I told her I would be here. I also know that both of my parents were so excited when Yad Vashem gave me the Young Leadership Remembrance Award here in New York back in 1999, 15 years ago. For me, that was a very special, moving evening, as is tonight. So to Yad Vashem, thank you very much. And I went back and I looked at the remarks I delivered on that evening. In accepting that award, I said, quote, "The Holocaust was by far the worst crime against humanity ever. Since then, people all over the world have vowed never again. But after World War II, there has been no shortage of other crimes against humanity, albeit on a smaller scale." That's what I said then, and unfortunately, as we meet tonight, we can still see so many crimes against humanity unfolding around the world. And I think it's fair to say that the terror attacks that we just saw in Paris are also crimes against humanity. How human beings can go into a concert hall where there are 1,000 people, almost all of them young people, listening to an American rock band perform, and simply start slaughtering these people, killing them point blank in the audience, almost 100 of them, is beyond comprehension. My heart, and I'm sure your heart, goes out to the families and indeed all the people of France who are mourning right now, because this is a period of mourning. Last year, the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, asked some of the anchors to prepare reports on our family's history and our family's roots. He thought it would be good for our viewers here in the United States and around the world, and CNN is seen in more than 200 countries around the world. He thought it would be good if the viewers of CNN and CNN International had a better chance to know a little bit more about the anchors. I was initially reluctant to participate because my old school journalistic instinct is always to report the news, to report about what other people are doing, what leaders are doing, and not to make myself part of the story. That's the old school journalistic tradition that I grew up with. As a young reporter, they always said, "You're not part of the story, just go out and report the news, be fair, be responsible, and do the right thing." And so my initial instinct was, you know what, I really don't think I want to do this. But Jeff, to his credit, persisted with all of us. By the way, most of the anchors were reluctant to do it, but we all eventually did it. And we were all so glad that he forced us to do it. Because in the process, in my particular case, I learned a little bit more about my family history. I, of course, knew the history. My parents, both Holocaust survivors, they were always very open. They shared all of their memories. They really didn't hide much. My sister and I can testify to that. I also tell the story of how my father struggled to make a living during those early days in Buffalo, but eventually became a successful home builder. And that's where the Wilf family came in. My father often told me the story of how he survived the war in concentration camps and slave labor camps with two very good friends, two brothers named Harry and Joe Wilf. After the war, the Wilfs and the Blitzers wound up in Augsburg, Germany. You saw the picture of all of us. That's where my sister and I were born, where Lenny was born. But that was just a temporary little stay in Germany. As a little boy, my parents brought us to Buffalo, New York. So you asked the question, how did we wind up in Buffalo, New York? Well, I'll tell you. Thanks to President Harry Truman's getting Congress to pass what was called the Displaced Persons Act after the war, it was legislation allowing thousands of Holocaust survivors and other refugees an opportunity to come to the United States. My parents wound up in Buffalo, and the Wilfs wound up in beautiful, was it Elizabeth, New Jersey? Elizabeth, New Jersey. My dad would often tell the story of how one day he was living in Augsburg, but he went to Munich, and he saw a long line. And this is after the war, he was healthy. And in those days, he said, if you saw a long line, you went and stood in line. Because he said, there must be something good at the end of the line. Why are all these people waiting in line? So he went and stood at the end of the line. And eventually, about a half an hour while waiting, there was a woman in front of him, and he said to her, Fräulein, by the way, why are we standing in line? And she said, visas. My father said, visas? For what? For America. They're giving visas to the United States. So he got to the end of the line, he signed up, my mother, her brothers who survived, all the relatives who survived, and eventually, within a few months, they got notified, you're going to the United States, but they would tell you where you were going, and they said, you're going to Buffalo. And my dad would always say, Buffalo, where's that? They said, New York. Oh, New York. A lot of Jews in New York, it'll be nice, we'll go to New York. That's how we wound up in Buffalo, New York. After working at Bethlehem Steel outside of Buffalo in Lackawanna, New York, and then opening up a small deli, not liking either of those jobs, my father said the Wilf brothers, Harry and Joe, encouraged him to become a home builder. They need homes, the Wilfs said, referring to all the young American military veterans coming home after the war. My dad said, I don't know anything about the building business. Harry and Joe said, Dave, you're a smart guy, you'll learn, go buy some land, just start doing it, which is exactly what my dad did. Together with two partners, Harry Schmidt and Saul Leuchter, also both Holocaust survivors, they started a home building business, started buying land, developing, and the story worked out. Their story, like the Wilf story, I must say, is a true American story, and I'm so proud of their accomplishments. Thank you. Immigrants come to the United States, our wonderful country. They're given a chance at a new life. They work hard, they do the right thing, and they become successful. And as we say, only in America. So once again, let me take this public opportunity to thank the Wilf family for being such good friends, to encourage my dad to become a home builder, and to stay friends with us all of these years. We are very, very proud of the Wilfs, and so glad to call them close friends. And so thrilled at how active you've been in supporting Yad Vashem, in supporting the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, and so many other good causes. Yad Vashem played a significant role for me, as it has for so many other children and grandchildren now of Holocaust survivors. What's called the pages of testimony that have been collected there at Yad Vashem, going back to the early 1950s, are so critically important. I can't tell you how happy I am to know that my father took the time many, many years ago, and I didn't even know he was doing it, to fill out those forms so that future generations would know a little bit more about our family history. The entire museum complex, and you saw some pictures of it, designed by Moshe Safdie, the great Israeli architect, is truly a wonder. And I'm sure most of you have been there by now. If not, you must put it on your bucket list and make a visit to Jerusalem, make a visit to Yad Vashem. I'm also thrilled, a personal plug, that my cousin, Pepe Dotan, also originally from Buffalo, today works at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem as a guide and often takes visitors on tours of the museum, but she also takes people on tours to Auschwitz and elsewhere in Poland. In fact, she just emailed me, she's leaving tomorrow on a tour that will be gone for about a week in Poland. She obviously was very helpful to me in learning about our family history, and I'm grateful to Pepe, grateful once again to Yad Vashem for all of that. So let me thank all of you once again for inviting me this evening. I'm grateful for what you do. Please continue this mission because it is not yet complete. And as we still see all too often, unfortunately, tragically, evil still exists. It sort of evolves, taking different political, religious forms, but the hatred is there, and it's so hard to combat. We must not, however, give up. We must continue to learn from it and fight it. That's why what you are doing by being here this evening is so truly important, and why I think I speak on behalf of all of us when I say thank you. We really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.